Alright everybody, welcome back for more TechNodeFirmaCraft on the TNFC Territory server, my little server. We're going to just sleep the night away here real quickly, and then we're going to go out and talk about Mekanism. Morning roosters. Going to go out and talk about Mekanism or processing. First though, let's take a quick run back down. You know what, let's take a flight. We'll take a flight instead. We're going to glide on down. I shouldn't say fly. We're just going to glide on down here to the excavator. And I want to just talk about that for a sec. So you might notice I've expanded my hemp field because the diesel generator is very, very, very hungry. It wants a lot of hemp seeds and sugarcane in order to run, well, pretty much at all. That being said, you might notice it's not here anymore. I moved it up by the refinery and thought, well, hi guys. The thought is to get the farm automated and then get the refinery basically well, the refinery will pipe into the diesel generator will pipe into the network, and then we have things like this, the ultimate energy cube, which currently has no energy at all, but let me look up a full one here for you. Can hold 51.2 million RF. Yeah, 51 million RF. And that won't even last a day on this thing. That lasts like half a day maybe. Any rate, if this guy just will not shoot us for a second. Just wanted to look in here. So I've transferred this thing back and forth, oh, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times maybe. Probably 3 or 4. And there he is. I knew it. Alright, let's hide over here instead. Come on out, dude. Come out from under the tree, I dare you. Anyway, so we're doing pretty well. I mean, we've got a full row of hematite piles, not like poor ore or normal ore or whatever. Boy, that's hard to say, a lot of ores. But yeah, so we've got quite a bit. So we're going to let's just grab this partial pile. Not even grab a full one. And we're going to go do some mechanism processing upon that. So anyway, definitely need to spend some more time upgrading the biodiesel production and all that. And there isn't a lot of... Yeah, and Random Pig, by the way. No idea how he got in here. He's not from the pig corral that's way out there. He just showed up here one day, so whatever. Yeah, I got to spend some more time on the biodiesel upgrades or process and all that. But there's not a lot of automatic farming in this mod pack. We have forestry, but forestry doesn't work with TFC, and it basically requires all sorts of vanilla blocks and things to be able to work. So it's basically completely disabled. So yeah. Anyway, I think we'll be getting to that pretty soon. I think we're going to use PneumaticCraft drones, but we haven't even started on PneumaticCraft, and we haven't started on the building this is all going into. So where's a good vantage point? Let me back up just a second here without falling off. Here, I'll come over from the bridge over here. So this is Mekanism or Quintupling. That's right, we can get 5 times ore out of this setup. So this is kind of our proof of concept theory stage, testing things out, figuring it out on our own for ourselves. And now that it's all done, we had some plans for building a tower over here, although that hasn't happened quite yet, and we're going to move it all inside the tower. Alright, so we've already seen a little bit of this when I was over at Sims Base, but let's just start out here. So this is a tier 1. If you just do this, enrichment chamber, you enrich it, and you get 2 dust. Bam, 2 dust. Okay? That's stage 1. That's ore doubling in Mekanism. Alright, now, you would think stage 2 might be crushing. No, you have to purify it. And this requires oxygen, so we'll get to that in just a second. And then that makes 3 of these iron clumps. And those get crushed into dirty iron dust. And then those, of course, get output into actual iron dust. So that's tier, whatever, 2, I guess. So now you've got ore tripling. And that's not bad. Let's get the last one. I just want to pull them out here. one at a time. That's not bad. The only kind of interesting thing here is now you need to produce oxygen, and to do that you need to separate water into hydrogen and oxygen. So we have this electrolytic separator, and this is kind of a real world thing, right? I mean, I did this as a kid as a science experiment. If you run current through water and do it, I don't remember how to do it, but do it the right way, you literally split the molecules and you get hydrogen and oxygen because, you know, water is H2O. However, this requires basically Minecraft water, or in this pack, deionized water, in order to split it. You can't use TFC water. So that becomes a little bit of an interesting thing. How do you get deionized water? Well, basically you start off by making one of these water tanks from Railcraft, or probably anything that will gather water from rain. So if you put that down in the put that down in the world, it will gather vanilla, you know, it's renamed here deionized water, but vanilla water, and we can then use that. Now, we also have infinite pools. So once you get some deionized water, you can put it into the world using buckets or, well, buckets and things. I think you need the ultimate bucket, or there's a tank that works like a bucket too, or whatever. But once you have that, you can now make an infinite water source, and there's several different ways to get the water out of here and into the pipes. There is a mechanism pump, but as I understand it, it works kind of weird, and it basically travels upstream and tries to consume all the source blocks, and it tends to break infinite water sources. So we've got a couple of PneumaticCraft liquid hoppers here. In the end, I think you only need one, but by default, these things are extremely slow. So you need a liquid hopper, and you need the dispenser upgrade. If you check over here, it basically says, oh, where is it? Upgrades. Here we go. Upgrades. If you put a dispenser upgrade, then it'll suck liquid blocks up from the input side, and it will place blocks down at the output side. So we're using it to pull it up out of the world and put it into the pipe, of course. But the default speed is 250 milliliters per second. Not millibuckets per tick, milliliters per second, which, if we assume milliliters and millibuckets are the same, then this is very, very slow because that's per second. The other thing we came up with, and I'll get back to that in a second, the other thing we came up with is the Immersive Engineering fluid pump actually works quite well, but it does require power. So we have to run some power to this guy, and we have to have a switch that will that will make it then consume the source blocks and pipe out of this. It's not too bad. I looked it up. It's 250 RF per time it consumes a source block. So not per tick, kind of like per second, or maybe every couple of seconds or whatever. But in the end, Sim figured this out. If you configure your mechanism pipes and make them pull from the hopper, this then goes to, well, we've got the advanced ones on right now, but let's see, do we have some of these in here? Yeah, well, here's the basic. So the basic one can transfer 1,000 millibuckets per tick, and can pump, yeah, I think that's what it is, can pump, or in this case pull, 100 millibuckets per tick, not per second like the hopper itself. So turns out if you configure that as an input, you can pull basically all the water you ever need out of it. So we don't need this one, we don't need that one. Basically just need one of these and a little infinite water source, and we should be good. Okay, let's get back to processing. So we've got our, let's see, tier 1, tier 2, tier 1 doubles, tier 2 triples. All you need really is this. The hydrogen in this case you can basically output to a tank. By the way, you can also put tanks here just to get extra. So if you need some hydrogen at some point, if you've run out, you've got a tank full of hydrogen or a tank full of oxygen or whatever. We've got this configured right now to dump excess hydrogen and go idle when you fill up on oxygen. So if I click this over to, let's say, dump excess, now it will continue running and keep filling up that hydrogen. But now that they're both on dumping excess, this will basically just run forever. So it will fill up both of them, but they're both just going to dump any extra they have, and it will just keep going forever. So we got this guy configured to idle once the oxygen is full, and that seems to work pretty well so far. So let's talk for a second about power. Remember I was talking about the excavator and how much power it takes? Yeah, we're kind of getting into a whole new realm of power here. Right here, this guy takes 160 RF per tick. Okay. And by the way, there are upgrades you can put into these. Speed and energy. And energy upgrades are supposed to lower the energy requirement. However, it turned out that there was a cheaty way of making more power with the hydrogen than this thing actually took, so they turned it off for electrolytic separators. You can't lower the power on electrolytic separators, at least in this version of Mekanism. You can lower the power of these other things. For instance, this guy is 179.94, and he's got a couple of, let's see, 3 speed upgrades, which makes him 2.3 times faster, and all 8 energy upgrades. So that makes it take 10 times less power, but also be 2.5 times faster almost, which ends up being about the right speed and not taking a ridiculous amount of power. But anyway, just these two. Okay, so that's 160, that's 180. I mean, that's 350 or whatever RF per tick right there. Remember the water wheel? I love that build. I still love it. It's beautiful. That thing makes about 100 RF per tick. That thing, that huge machine, cannot power even one of those reliably. I mean, full time. The well, you can't see that because of hardcore darkness pretty much at all right now. The windmill up there generates like 20 RF per tick. So we had to work out some better power generation, and I don't think we're quite there yet. We're not. We just basically have a big battery that stores power when we're not using it. But we've got these mechanism windmills, which do a little bit better. Oops, I guess I already had a sandwich out. These guys are interesting. They can output, it says out 200 RF per tick, so that's how fast it can output its buffer, it seems. The power this one actually generates is 63.56 RF per tick, although it doesn't say RF per tick. And the power buffer is 80,000 RF per 80,000 total. 80,000 kilo RF. Whatever. So this guy only makes 63 RF per tick, but that's more than the 20 or whatever, 22, 25 that guy makes. So that's better. These are better than the Immersive Engineering windmills, but not a ton better. These are also based on height. So we're at Y169 here. If we move them up higher in the world, they will make more power. But then we've got to make these silly towers that just basically go up to the top of the world and then run wires down, which have some loss in them and whatever. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that at some point. But I did it in Creative World just to try it, and the power went up to 100 RF per tick from 63. So we could almost double the output of this, but it still takes, right now it's taking, what, 2 of these just to run that one electrolytic separator, basically. Oh yeah, and I added all sorts of floodlights all over the place. The other power we have over here, we haven't gotten to this machine yet. Oops, got stuck on the snow there. Haven't got to this machine yet, but I'll show you the power part of it right now. Still haven't made a jetpack, so I'm still climbing around. The other power we have is these solar panels. So these are ultimates or advanced solar generators, and we're just looking at the side of it here. This guy, it's not telling us right off the bat. I think these actually make more power than the actually I'm sure these make more power than the windmills, but of course it has to be daytime for those to work, so you only get power half the time out of them. And here of course out is 300 instead of the out for those was 200, so one might assume these are about 50% more powerful and only work half the time, so whatever. But you need those on that big old thing anyway, so we'll get back to that. Alright, or doubling or tripling with the separator. Now we get into the interesting parts. Let me remember. Yes, okay. So now the next step is or quadrupling. So if we take one of these and put it into this chemical injection chamber with hydrogen chloride, so we need to make hydrogen chloride now. We get 4 of these little chunks that are going to go over here, and then they're going to go through the same process that we already did. They're iron shards. They're going to become the crushed, the iron clumps, and then the dirty iron, and then that'll turn them into actual iron dust. And in the end, we'll get 4 iron out of 1 pile. And by the way, anybody that might be watching this that isn't playing this mod pack, these piles are basically just like vanilla ores. So if you're using Mekanism and not doing TNFC, this will all work the same. You just use vanilla ores instead of these piles. Alright, so this one is the new guy, and he requires hydrogen chloride. Well, how do we get hydrogen chloride? Yeah, that becomes interesting. So, you're going to get, let's see, here's your pressurized tube. Yes, this is where you're getting hydrogen chloride from. And behind here is a chemical infuser. There's our hydrogen chloride. Wow, that's hard to say this morning. And of course we're getting hydrogen, which we already looked at in the electrolytic separator by separating water. But then we need to get chlorine. And the way you get chlorine is another electrolytic separator. And you need to separate brine. And you end up with sodium, which is completely worthless, and chlorine. By the way, this used to create hydrogen and chlorine, but for some reason they decided to change it, and now this creates sodium, which has no use at all as far as I know, and the chlorine gas, which we actually do need. So of course we're dumping the excess sodium, getting rid of it, and using the chlorine. What's going on? Oh, it's snowing. Alright, I'm going to go sleep real quick because I don't really want it to be snowing while I'm recording, and whoop, I forgot we reconfigured things. And the next piece we want to talk about actually requires sunlight to work properly. So let's just sleep quickly and head back over there. Alright, brand new day, sun's back up, snow has stopped, and I got some noms and some water, so I'm doing good. And our process has finished, so here's our ore quadrupling. We now have 4 ores out of a single pile / ore block. Okay, so we were working on chlorine, right? Yes. We need to get chlorine, and we get that from brine. Where do we get brine from? That. Yep. So this is a solar evaporation chamber machine thing. It used to be called the desalination block, if you're familiar with older versions of Mekanism, but they changed the name at some point. Let me get a few more ladders here. I had it just so that we could get just to the top, but I want to get up higher so you guys can see the actual top of this thing. So, let's see, I probably... actually, I don't need it anyway. I was going to say, can probably put a ladder there, but actually we don't need it. So, basically this is a whole bunch of these solar evaporation blocks with one solar evaporation controller that has to go at the top, by the way. I don't know why it has to go at the top. Why can't it be at the bottom? But there we go. It is hollow on the inside, and all of the layers are complete 4x4s except this top layer. Instead of the corners, you put down the what are they called? Advanced solar generators. Alright, so the advanced solar generator, now that it's daytime, says sun equals true, 80 kR. It still doesn't tell you how much it's outputting. That's weird. Here? No, producing 0. So maybe our batteries are completely full and it doesn't need power right now. Anyway, trust me, it produces a decent amount of power. It's better than the windmills are. And if we look in here now, this is actually warming up. I logged in today and it was completely cold for some reason. No idea why. So these generators both make power, which we are piping out to the system down there and down to that energy cube. But they also make heat, and that's the whole point here. Is they're taking, again, deionized water / Minecraft water, and they're converting it into brine. And the multi-block does that, but it depends on how hot it is. And the higher you make it, the better the maximum temperature. Wow, that's hard to say. Or I said it poorly. The taller you make the multi-block, the larger the maximum temperature will be. And the higher the temperature, the more efficiently it will create brine. So, like I said, I logged in today and it was completely cooled off. No idea why that happened. It will fully get all the way up to the maximum 1.9 kilokelvin is what that is. So we're just about halfway, or close to halfway right now. And as this gets higher and higher, it's going to make brine more efficiently, which is completely full right now, so it doesn't matter that much. Now, what is this mult 0.2x? Because 0.2 sounds bad. Should we do something to fix that? Turns out this is a multiplier on how fast it will warm up during the day. And that is dependent on one thing and one thing only. It's dependent on the biome that you build it in. So, interestingly enough, this particular block says plains. But I can't get up there because that's in the way. Most of the area around here, let me come down here, is in fact, let's use, oops, can't point at it, can I? Yeah, I can. Let's use this because the readout over here updates slowly. So right there it says plains, but most of the area around here is rolling hills. And I don't know exactly where it figures it out from. Actually, can I get under the solar evaporation block? Not really. It would be that block right there. I'm presuming either the controller is the center or like the middle of that thing is the center. And rolling hills is not a vanilla biome. So apparently it just says, oh, I don't know what that is, and it makes it like, I think extreme hills was 0.2 or something. So in our relayout, we have taken a look, and this whole area here is plains, this 4x4. So this is where we're going to put the solar evaporation plant, and then we should get, I think it's a 0.7 multiplier in the plains, something like that. Anyway, back to things. Alright, so that makes brine. Brine gets separated into sodium and chlorine. Chlorine gets combined with hydrogen to make hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen chloride breaks down the ores in the injection chamber and creates 4 times. Yes. Okay, so doubling, tripling, easy. 4 times, not so easy, and that's a little expensive to make, especially if you don't have a lot of ores early on. Now, of course, you don't have to make it 10 tall. You can make it much shorter, but the brine production is going to be pretty slow. In fact, even at 10x, it's 10 tall, it's not super fast. I think the max was 18 tall. So we can actually make this almost twice as tall as this thing, and we'll probably end up doing that just because we can. Anyway, okay, so we're up to 4x, but we want more. We want 5x processing, by gosh. So to do that, we need a dissolution chamber with sulfuric acid, and this is, a real thing. If you put some iron in here, into sulfuric acid, it will dissolve it down and we'll get iron slurry. But the iron slurry has, contaminants and rock and garbage in it. So now we need to wash it and make some clean iron slurry. So this washer is going to use water and our iron slurry to make clean iron slurry. Clean iron slurry then can be crystallized in a chemical crystallizer, and it will output, I guess we have to see it in here, iron crystals. Iron crystals can then be processed and sent down the line as iron shards, and then we continue on down the line as we've already seen. So this is basically pretty much realistic. It's, in real world, I don't suppose a chemical washer and the dissolution chamber and all that is a little tiny, 1x1 type block, but the procedures here are pretty much realistic. So there we go, 5 iron dust out of 1 hematite pile. Woohoo! Okay, let's talk about power and how that all happened, what we just did there. So our power is full right now. I'm going to throw the rest of this iron in here and let this run while we talk about the setup for 5x. Alright, so for 5x, let's work backwards again. This guy just needs the slurry that we get from the previous stage. So power and slurry, no big deal. That's easy. This guy needs more deionized water, which we've already talked about, and the dirty iron slurry. So that's easy, no big deal. This guy becomes the problem. So now we need sulfuric acid. And that, of course, is going to require more electrolytic separators and things like that in order to get us there. So he's going to need sulfuric acid, which is coming from this machine, the chemical infuser. We've already had one of these. We're doing it again. We're infusing sulfur trioxide with water vapor, which is, of course, steam. And that is becoming sulfuric acid. How do we get the steam? We get it from a condensator in condensating mode. If you click on this, it will flip over to deconcentrating mode or something like that, and it can basically make water vapor back into water. So this guy's taking water. Of course, we got more water piped into him here, and he's using power. Oh, I'm sorry, we are in deconcentrating mode, even though it's a condensator. There we go. So we're in deconcentrating mode. So we're deconcentrating, that's the worst word ever, water into water vapor. And that's how you get the water vapor for this side. Now we need sulfur trioxide, and that is all back around here. There's our sulfur trioxide. To get that, we need another chemical infuser. And here we're infusing oxygen. We've already seen that. We get that from electrolytic separating water. And sulfur dioxide. Okay, how do we get sulfur dioxide? Well, you get that from a chemical oxidizer with, in this pack, sulfur powder. In other packs you can use sulfur. And additionally, you can process gunpowder into, I don't think it's sulfur, but you can, maybe it is sulfur. I think it is sulfur. You can process gunpowder down into sulfur. So if you have a gunpowder farm, you could go that route. And that makes us the sulfur dioxide. So, we've been doing pretty well with the sulfur. It's not that tough to get. Once you have lava, you basically just set up a room. I think we saw that an episode or two ago. Just set up a room with some lava, and it just puts sulfur all over the place on the walls and on the ceiling and on the floors. And you just break it off, bring it over here. So this part is not fully automated, but it's not too bad. Alright, let's see how we're doing here. So we're down to 8 piles left. We're doing pretty well. We've almost filled up the iron slurry buffer. Oh, there it goes. Alright, so maybe we're waiting for the rest of the process to continue. The chemical wash is doing its thing. This one is actually one I think we might want to be a little faster. It's got, okay, so it's got 1 speed upgrade, which is making it double speed, and it's got all 10 energy upgrades in it, which is making it take 32 RF per tick instead of 320. So yeah, we could speed that one up, definitely. The clean iron slurry is doing okay, but if we speed this one up, then we're going to have to speed this one up. So it becomes this whole balancing thing of, okay, where's the bottleneck? Who's going slowest? Okay, now if I speed up this bottleneck, will this one still keep up or not? And we basically have to go around in circles with energy upgrades and speed upgrades. Now it looks like we're at the point where we basically have all of our energy upgrades maxed out. I think we've just made a ton of them, and by we I mean Sim. But early on, basically what you're going to want to do is, if you have a small number of energy upgrades, take a look at all of your machines and see which one's using the most. So if you got one that's using 320 RF per tick, then putting a energy upgrade in it is going to be much more efficient than putting an energy upgrade in one that's using, 32 RF per tick, or more specifically, some of these use, I think, 80 RF per tick. Well, they're all upgraded. I think this one is... No, he's got 5 of it. Well, he's also got speed upgrades, which makes it take more power. So yeah, anyway. Look for whatever says it takes the most RF per tick and put your energy upgrades in that first. because you're going to get the most bang for your buck by doing that. Okay, wow. So this is going to take a while, and you can see the whole process is not super fast. We've got it somewhat balanced around power and the speed that we can generate different things. For instance, let's check out the brine tank. Hello, thank you. So it's keeping up, and we're only at half temperature right now, so we're doing okay. It's barely keeping up. But again, if we speed up some more of the stuff down here, then it will need more brine faster, which means that will be have to be hotter up there. And finally, a big part of the balance is how much power do you have? Okay. This guy, he's still full? Alright, so basically here's the power. We've got these windmills piping over to there. We've got the 4 advanced solar panels piping down, well, 2 of them to there and 2 of them to here. We're going through the current transformer, which we can right click to see how much it's getting. Right now it's getting 378 RF per tick because it's nighttime again. And that's coming into here. And then that's outputting to, should be outputting to the cube. Well, I guess it is. So, yep, it looks like, again, Sim had apparently added a lot more energy upgrades, but it looks like we are actually staying ahead, well, close to staying ahead of the energy draw right now with just the windmills. So I'm just watching it in the Whale tooltip on the left there. So it's very slowly going down. I mean, it's bouncing around a bunch, but it's not at the full 4 million, and it looks like it's maybe very slowly just kind of easing down a little ways. And this guy is staying pretty much full. I thought he was draining and this one was full, which was strange. But yeah, this guy's pretty close to full. This guy's pretty close to full. As an HV capacitor, this can output 4096 RF per tick, so he can output basically as much as this guy could possibly need, pretty close. And we are using the advanced cables, which can hold or transfer 5000 RF per tick. So there we go. Oh no, I was totally lying. Here we go. Let's turn this off. This goes over to, we'll just turn it off completely. This is an HV cable that goes over to the rest of the power, the water wheel, the windmill, but in particular a bunch of more HV and MV capacitors. So now that that's not feeding us, and we're literally down to just these windmills at 378 RF per tick at the moment, there we go. Now we're using up the power. I was really surprised it was keeping up. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. So it's a lot better because we have a lot more energy upgrades installed now, but it's still killing the power off, and that's why we've got a couple of really big batteries back here. So during the day when we've got the solar panels on and when we're not using the system, of course, these guys get charged up, and then when we want to actually use the system, we've got a couple of big batteries plus whatever power generation we have. But we're going to have to work on better power generation both for this and for the excavator. And there's actually another auto miner called the digital miner that Sim has, and that thing is super power hungry too. So we could probably help charge that guy up or run that guy too. So how are we doing? Let's just take one last look. You can see kind of how long this oh yeah, right, I put that down. How long this takes, because we still got, yeah, we still got iron slurry back here. We still got this one doing its thing. Again, speeding this up would help, but then we would just end up with a larger backlog here. So speeding up the crystallizer so that it can keep up with this guy would be the next step, but of course that increases the power use on both. And it looks like right now this guy's a little bit ahead. So he's processing, he turns off just for a second and then turns back on. So he's ahead, but not by much. And you can see he's using a decent, well, I guess not that much. So if we speed this guy up, then we're going to need more hydrogen chloride. If we need more hydrogen chloride, then we got to speed that thing up and the other thing back there, and then we're going to run out of brine, so we got to make this taller. you know, it's this big, long balancing act to make this work. But the rewards are very much worth it. So we are going to get, well, I didn't bring a whole stack over, but we're going to get 5 stacks of iron dust out of 1 stack of iron ore or pile, hematite pile, whatever we have. And that's it, folks. We have done mechanism or quintupling in proof of concept mode. Like I said, we're going to put all this, rearrange it and make it much prettier. And I think we're going to build kind of a tech tower thing here and put it in there, but we're not quite there yet, so that will come at a later date. I'm pretty sure this is a really, really long episode. Might have turned out to be 2 episodes. We'll see how it goes. But that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed the let's go through all the technical terms of how to make this thing happen. Got some ideas for the next episode. Maybe I'll back away from the tech a little bit and we'll do something else. But that's it for now. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. As always, leave me a comment below, and I'll talk to you later. See you laters.